Hello everyone, this is part 5 of What If Naruto was banished and goes back to Konoha, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Gaara jumped back a ways, as his enemy's attack swept in front of him, barely missing his entire stomach. The Chunin he was fighting took his hesitation to preform a few kata. Gaara also preformed some kata, trying to beat his opponent in almost a race. Yuandan, Kato Tama Render, shouted Gaara and the Suna Chunin in unison. The two motioned their hands in a throwing motion, with each complete throw, emitting a shaped gust of wind toward their respective targets. Several of the gusts collided with each other, which resulted in the air being dispersed and spread out. Some managed to break through to each side, forcing Gaara and the Chunin to dodge the remaining barrage. At the same time, Kankuro had his puppet, Karasu, doing most of the hard work. The Chunin he was fighting was busy defending himself, as he had Karasu unleash a few more appendages, hoping to overwhelm his enemy. He suddenly felt a presence behind him, and jumped away just before he had a kunai hit him in the back of the neck. The kunai instead connected with Karasu, to which the puppet twisted his head 180 degrees, opened his mouth, and launched a dart. The dart connected, dissipating the shadow. Karasu also finally broke the other's defense, as he slashed at him, causing him also to dissipate. Kankuro finally felt a large killing intent coming from behind him. It must be the real body. The man was fast, as he attempted to run Kankuro through with a kunai to the spine. Kankuro back-flipped over the man, and manipulated his chakra strings to entrap the man in his spot. A grin formed on his face, as not many people knew that chakra strings were quite thin and sharp. With a slight motion, Kankuro tried to slice the man to ribbons with his strings, but the Chunin managed to escape. Temari was having similar luck, as she had both a Jonin and Chunin attacking her outright. She could have probably taken the Chunin, but the Jonin was a bit much for her alone. As she parried the Chunin's kunai strikes, she used her fan to blow him out of her space. When she finished that, the Jonin attempted to finish her off. Poor Temari at this point was trying to keep herself alive while trying to figure out a plan. If Gaara and Kankuro were able to assist, then she could push herself a bit more. For now, survival was her main concern. Now, in the midst of battle, there are certain unspoken laws. One of those laws is that once such a battle ensues, there are no breaks, no timeouts, one must fight until the fight has an undisputed winner, and in the case of shinobis, a dead loser. So, you can imagine the type of distraction that could occur that would not only stop one side from fighting, but both. The Jonin and Chunin attacking Temari suddenly halted. The Chunin attacking Gaara and Kankuro stopped as well. Even the remaining 4 Chunin, stalking in concealment waiting for the perfect opportunity, were shaken out of their hiding spots. They were all facing the same direction. What was that? Asked the Jonin, in a quiet voice. I have no idea, spoke one of the Chunin. But that much energy and killing intent must be at least coming from across the city. We should check it out, said the Jonin. Boss, what about these punks? Asked a Chunin. Listen, whatever just unleashed that intent and presence is far more dangerous than these 3 brats, said the Jonin. And besides, now that we know what they look like, we can hunt them down and kill them when we please. So I'm ordering it, withdraw now. With little sway over their leader, the Chunin followed orders and soon all 7 were out of sight. Onizen, shouted Kankuro, let's pursue them. We can finish them off now. Wait Kankuro, said Temari. Let them flee. We were assigned to kill them, but that was because we needed to prevent the assassinations. Now that they're occupied with something else, we can use the time to attack the Kazekage offices. But Temari, they'll hunt us down when they're done with whatever they're after. Said Kankuro. No they're not, said Gaara, in a quiet voice. The 2 siblings looked over the Gaara, who was down on his knees. His whole body was shaking in place. His face was peering into the dirt below, drilling into it with his eyes. They're going to die. He's telling me, said Gaara. Gaara, you mean? Asked Temari. He knows, spoke Gaara cryptically, too scared and too shocked to be coherent. He knows what that is, and it will kill us all. Kankuro, said Temari, there's a change of plans, let's get Gaara home. Got it, said Kankuro, as he shouldered his brother, and slowly managed to get him to walk with him back home. Boss, we need some help, shouted one of the Chunin captains. They were busy trying to keep themselves alive, as their Jonin superior was slashing and attacking them with a fury. There was Ino in the distance, limp and unmoving, with Shikamaru right next to her. I'm a little busy, shouted the other Jonin in frustration. He was busy trying to outwit his own opponent, but he was quickly finding out why the Sharingan was such a sought-after bloodline. Every move he tried to form was quickly mimicked by Sasuke, who just smirked, as he enjoyed watching his opponent's psyche break and crumble into rage. His fun was ruined by a surge of what he never thought he would feel run up his spine, fear. The Jonin took the opportunity of Sasuke's aloofness to vanish out of sight. His voice echoing throughout the area. Retreat. Reform and let's assess this situation, the voice rang. What the hell was that about? Asked Shikamaru. I have no idea, said Sasuke, but somehow, I don't think it was because of us kicking his ass. Did you feel that energy? Shikamaru shook his head. You might be more sensitive to that kind of thing because of your rank and blood. Was it really that bad? Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure, replied Sasuke. Kyuubi stood there, in all the terror and awe that he felt coming off of everyone within the area. He closed his eyes, drinking in the feeling he hadn't felt for a long time. He then turned to the two pieces of meat he held in his hands. They were paralyzed in his grasp, even though they were still struggling to get free. Kyuubi's eyes then trailed down to Naruto's chakra wristbands. He mused, seems the boy used these to train himself, and restrain his powers. He talked to himself as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Aside from the two Jonin he had clasped tightly in his palms, the others were still reverberating from his entrance. Tenten and Sakura were off his radar, as he didn't take them as much of a presence, so the two Kunoichi were still trying to free themselves from their jailer's bonds. What the hell are you? One of the Jonin managed to spit out. He immediately gained Kyuubi's attention. Did I tell you to speak? Yelled Kyuubi, sneering at the man. He continued his musings. These absorb chakra, but it seems to be an open flow. So if I were to supply my own chakra, he smiled the two Jonin in his hands. I can do this. He started to tighten his grip, the Jonin screaming in agony as their heads were being squeezed. After a few terror-filled seconds, Kyuubi's fingers punctured the shinobi's skulls, blood flowing freely. Kyuubi continued his grip, and eventually the Jonins dropped to the ground, the top half of their skulls still in Kyuubi's hands. Ah, replied a satisfied demon, so I can enhance his strength with these trinkets. His laugh echoed throughout the canyon, like an insane murderer. It feels so good to live again, said Kyuubi, as he took one of the skull caps, and licked a bit of the blood still dripping off of it. I have to admit though, I didn't expect to break free for at least another 2 or 3 days. It was then his attention turned to the two women. The moment his eyes locked onto them, the two were frozen solid, barely able to still breathe. A sick smile appeared on Kyuubi's face as he walked over to them. I see, he said. It makes sense now. What a fool this boy was, but I suppose, as you humans say, he's only human. Seeing you in your delicious position must have set the poor boy over the edge. He knelt down beside them, staring at them. He got face to face with Tenten, and snarled at her. He turned his head to Sakura's, chuckled into her ear, before giving it an antagonizing lick with his tongue. I suppose I should thank you in a way, he spoke to them as he stood up and walked away. Then again, I don't have to thank anyone. Still, it was because of you two skanks that I was able to free myself, so, said Kyuubi, before channeling some chakra into his nails. He shot bullets of his chakra at the girls. As they flinched in defense and fear, the ropes, gags, and bonds were cut with ruthless efficiency. This boy though, I am quite grateful to, he said, a devil's grin appearing on his face. This boy was strong to begin with, but now that I can supply my own chakra to him, there isn't a single being stronger alive today. Another maniacal laugh erupted from his maw. Kyuubi stopped short though, when he felt something hit him. He turned his head to see a kunai lodged into his left shoulder. He pulled it out like it was a bothersome tick. He turned to the Chunin behind him, one out in front of the others, his hand retuning as quickly as possible to the man's side. Is this yours? He asked the man. The Chunin nodded his head like a retard. Kyuubi shrugged, and after channeling some chakra into his wrist, threw it back to the Chunin faster than the human eye. A moment later, the Chunin's head was rolling on the ground behind him, kunai right between the eyes. I swear, grinned Kyubi, some people would lose their head if it wasn't attached to them. The other Chunin, in an attempt to live another day, would have run by then. However, as they planned to leave, several more Chunin and Jonin arrived on the scene. So this was the disturbance, remarked one of the Jonin. The sooner shinobi started to move around Kyubi, trying to encircle him in a full flank of men. While the men were taking their time maneuvering around the demon, Sakura and Tenten were sitting there, watching the horrors their Naruto was unleashing. No, this wasn't Naruto anymore. Sakura knew about Kyubi, but she never thought he could escape. However, her shock was nothing compared to Tenten's. She looked over to her friend, as she had her eyes glued to Naruto. Sakura, said Tenten, shaky and scared, and rightfully so, is this what you wanted to let me know? Sakura came up to Tenten, and placed a hand on her shoulder to try and relax her. Yeah, she simply said. Gaara isn't the only Jinchuriki in the world. Naruto is one as well. However, his Biju is in a class far greater than the Tanuki no Sabaku. Naruto, in order to protect Konoha, had none other than the Kitsune no Kyubi sealed inside him. Sakura and Tenten remembered a poem they learned in the academy. It was in their class overseeing their village history. Supposedly, the Yondaime himself wrote it before going off to join the fray, where he would eventually sacrifice himself. He comes when he feels, for he feels only death. He attacks who angers him, for his blood is rage. He punishes the hated, for all he knows is hate. The red fox smiles as his wish has come true. The 9 swords of chaos flail and twist in the moonlight, signaling the doom of another. Oh Naru-kun, said Tenten, breaking down a little. She let Sakura embrace her, as they both continued to watch the slaughter. Words would have to wait for another day, this was just too much to take in at once. Worse, Tenten found out in the worst possible way. The Suna ninja had finished encircling Kyubi, who simply stood in place with a crazy on his face. The Jonin was brave, or foolish enough, to approach Kyubi a bit so he could hear him. I don't know who or what the fuck you are, but you obviously need to be destroyed, said the Jonin. The only thing he got was another maniacal fit of laughter from Kyubi. Just what the hell is so humorous? Asked the Jonin. Tell me gentlemen, do you know why you're afraid while I am not? Asked Kyubi. What? We're not afraid of a little punk like you. Shouted the Jonin. Then why are your feet trembling? Asked Kyubi, pointing downward at the Jonin's shoes. In fact, said Kyubi, making a stationary circle, finger extended, why do I smell the fear and terror coming off of all of you? He ended his turn, and stared at the slightly shaken Jonin. I'll let you know why, said Kyubi. It's because you have put values on your lives. You all think that you still have something to live for, hence you meet Sacks put value on your useless lives. This is also the reason why you're scared to put them at risk, as your job is an all-or-nothing business. But you see gentlemen, said Kyubi, patting his chest. I don't have such delusions. I have already lived more lives than all of you put together. I know that life has death, that to kill means to be killed eventually. So you see gentlemen, the answer to the question is simple, I have nothing to lose. Kyubi sneered evilly after he explained himself to the Jonin. Why you? Said the Jonin, now audibly shaken, what makes you think you can beat all of us? Even a cage can't beat so many shinobi by himself. Well, you haven't moved yet, so you're either planning something, sneered Kyubi, or you noticed my chakra field enclosing us, preventing you from escaping your horrible death. The Jonin looked around the area, and saw a faint orange tint in the air. It folded over him, and it took the shape of a dome. He also noticed that it was slowly shrinking. Everyone attack, said the Jonin, he can't beat us if we attack all at once. All the shinobi leaped for the lone ninja in the center, who grinned. Kyukeika Ranmyaku, growled Kyubi. His clothes on his chest and torso ripped to shreds, as 9 tendrils of red chakra emerged from Kyubi's back. The tails immediately lashed out all around the area, slicing all who got in their way. Shinobi left and right were being torn to ribbons, their blood spraying out and dripping down the orange chakra field. Sakura was speechless, as she saw the tails not leave one shinobi alone with just one cut. No, these would cut the same corpse again and again, spraying more blood all over the dome as it happened. In addition, the dome continued to shrink, compressing the air and the space inside it. Some shinobi halted their attack, and tried to run away, but the chakra field of Kyubi was keeping them in place. It was too thick, almost like a living wall. They scratched and clawed at the wall, until of course, they were mutilated by the tails. Eventually, the dome was painted solid red with the blood of the ninja, and it exploded, like a zit, with blood erupting from it like a volcano spewing magma. In the center of this madness, Kyubi laughed with delight, as a rain of blood poured all over him, covering him in the remains of his opponents. The tails retracted and relaxed, as they surrounded Kyubi. "Ah, my friends," he said, cuddling against them, "I've missed you. Now, I am truly alive again. With you at my side, I will be invincible." One tail coiled, and shielded its master from a quick barrage of kunai. Kyubi looked over to see the assailant, Sakura. "You!" He shouted loud enough to wake the entire village. One of his tails grabbed Sakura, and another picked up the still shaken Tenten. It wrapped around their necks and lifted them off the ground. Kyubi walked over, as the two women gasped for air. "I should be mad at myself, deciding to let you two skanks live," he growled. "And this is the gratitude you show me. Do you have any idea how many useless, worthless lives like yours I have crushed? Can you imagine the pain and misery I can put you through?" Well, he took two of his tails, and used them to twist at the exposed nipples of girls, giving them immense pain while they struggled to breathe. Kyubi looked at him, a look of mock pity appearing on his face. "You could have lived long, eventful lives," he said gently, "or rather, insanely. But now it will never be. Because I'll end your existence right." His fun was cut off by a feeling in his gut. He looked down, as furious as he had been that entire night. "You!" he shouted at his stomach. "How dare you try and—" He was cut off, this time releasing the girls from his grip, as they dropped to the ground breathing with much gratitude. "No, not now. I have finally been freed. You will regret this. I will rise again. And this time for good." Kyubi hunched over, trying to gain control of himself. However, whatever was getting to him was forcing him back into his cage. The nine tails, still covered in blood, completely retracted into Kyubi's body. His eyes started to revert to blue. Finally, the body, of what was now Uzumaki Naruto, collapsed onto the ground with a loud thud. The first thing Naruto could notice was the pain. His body was racked with pain in every cell, organ, and bone. What the hell did he do? Try and jump off the Hokage monument without a helmet? It hurt just to try and move his fingers. He had to face it, he was busted up, and it was probably not a good idea to try and add to the problem, so he relaxed and laid still. The next thing were the sounds he heard. First of all, there were no voices, or anything that sounded like speech. He could hear a bird or two outside. He heard a faint buzz, like some fluorescent light or maybe an insect by his ear. He then heard the faint sound of breathing. Naruto opened his eyes, his blurry vision finally adjusting to the color of white. All he saw in front of him was white paneling. To his right, a lone window, curtains blowing in the slight wind and the sun shining down on the world. He then turned to see Tenten in a chair, patently waiting for him to look her way. From the looks of the place, he must have been in an hospital ward. "Hey," she said, a faint smile on her face. "Hey," he said, a bit of a grunt and effort from him to even speak. "Did we win?" "Yes," she said, "but not in the way you think, Naru-kun." "What do you mean?" "I saw Kyubi," she told him plainly. He felt the pain in his body just get even worse. She found out. There was only one way in his mind as to how that could have happened. If he could, he would smack himself upside the head. How could he be so stupid as to let that nine-tailed bastard get the best of him? Oh God, what did that demon do at the expense of his body? He looked at Tenten, a few tears coming to his face. "Did I?" He started to tear up. Tenten rushed over to comfort him. "No," she said, "you didn't. You managed to fight him off before he could hurt us. It wasn't your fault, Naru-kun." "Yes it is," he said, "I was weak, and he took advantage of it. And now, you probably never want to see me again." "That's not true, Naruto-kun." Naruto and Tenten looked over towards the room's door, and Sakura came in, approaching Naruto. "Kyubi could have done a lot more while he was free, but you were fighting him from the moment he was freed. It's because you fought so hard that he left just before he could do major damage. So Naruto-kun, you're not weak. In fact, you're the strongest man I've ever known." As Naruto laid there, the two ladies comforting him and letting him know that they weren't mad, he could have died right then and there. At that moment, he was happier than he ever was. Even after all the horror, all the trauma that Kyuubi put him through, they still cared for him. He sniffed a bit, as he tried to contain his masculinity and keep calm. Have I told you two that I love you both dearly? He asked them. They just smiled. Well, you just did, joked Sakura. And we feel the same way, said Tenten. They both kissed him on one cheek. Could you save this making out for when he's able to get back on his feet? The trio turned to the door to see Sasuke, Ino, and Shikamaru enter the room. Jealous Shikamaru? Asked Naruto. As if, said Shikamaru. Now, let's get to debriefing your ass. We're done so soon? Asked Naruto. You've been out for a day and a half, Naruto, spoke Sasuke. I found you and the girls there, and you weren't moving at all. Surprisingly, all you suffered from your little excursion was just a slight concussion. You have the devil's luck, Naruto. You don't know the half of it, he thought to himself. But as to your inquiry, we had a whopper of a case close up on its own, said Shikamaru, producing a dossier. This is the report you all need to hand over to Tsunade. It states the mission, operation, costs, and the aftermath of the mission. Wait, asked Naruto, you still didn't tell me why we're done. We found the leader of the coup. Temari and Kankuro were busy with Gaara, and Sasuke was carrying your sorry butt to the hospital for diagnosis and treatment. So Ino, Sakura, Tenten, and myself breached the Kazekige's office. And, said Naruto, we found this, said Shikamaru, as he tossed another folder Naruto's way. It was an autopsy file. He was dead, exclaimed Naruto. Well, in a way, said Shikamaru, who nodded to Sakura. I examined the body, seeing as I was the only one with any knowledge, she stated. It seems he was a cadaver. I found that evidence that the poor bastard was embalmed alive as little as 3 days ago. And they just left a corpse in the office? Asked Naruto. Not they. You're thinking about Naruto, interjected Shikamaru. I'm thinking we've all been played for fools, the coup members included. How do you mean? Asked Sasuke. Think about it, we found the body behind the Kazekige's veil, right? Well, yeah, said Ino, but that's how the Kazekige met with his shinobi and other advisors. That's how they tricked the officers, said Shikamaru. Obviously, the coup leader was using the same way of communication, so his officers never saw that he was dead. They were talking to a dead guy. Asked Ino. Someone was making it look like he was alive and kicking, said Shikamaru. If the officers were loyal enough, they knew not to question their leader, cage or not. And it's tradition that the leader of Sunakaga uses the veil to meet with his advisors. And who would benefit from such a plan? Asked Tenten. I don't know, said Shikamaru, but I feel that he killed the leader when he found out about our mission. He killed the guy off, gave the assassination orders, and used the time to cover his tracks before anyone would even consider the possibility. Geez, said Naruto, all this trouble, and in the end we get squat. Well, that's not all true, answered Shikamaru. Because the coup is gone, the village can go back to normal. Plus, Temari and the others will work on getting their nominations for Kazekige. At their age? Asked Sakura. Suna is their old village, really old. They still use a monarchy style of power. And since Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara are the heirs of the previous one, explained Shikamaru. Wow, pays to be the king, whistled Ino. Anyways, said Shikamaru, approaching the door, the mission is a success. You all are free to go home. I put all the relevant info in the debriefing dossier. The gang left the ward, letting Naruto rest up. It would be another day before they were all set to get moving back to Konoha. At the gate were their new friends, along with Shikamaru. Good luck, guys, said Sakura, shaking Temari's hand. We'll try, replied Temari. When you visit again, this place will be a whole new Sunakaga. Try to keep in touch, said Kankuro. Gaara, said Naruto. Naruto, replied Gaara. The two just shook each other's hands, confident in the knowledge of the common bond. With the goodbyes said, the five set out for Konoha, and home. Did you also give word about the Kyuubi in that report, Shika? Asked Temari. I had no bloody choice, said Shikamaru, I'd lose my head if I didn't. Besides, Tsunade will know what to do about it, if there is something to be done. Things are going to be boring without them around, stated Kankuro. Then you'll just have to get to practicing with your dolls, smirked Gaara. What was that? Exclamated Kankuro. The two brothers went about their business back in the village, bickering along the way. How do you put up with them? Asked Shikamaru. Same way I do with you, answered Temari. Got some free time? He asked her. Thought you'd never ask, she said with a smirk, and dragged him into the village. To do what? Only the stars know. How many times do I have to explain it to you? Shouted Naruto, slamming his hands on the cold metal table in front of him. The minute Naruto and the gang returned from Suna, after a grueling mission, he was hoping to get some rest. He was expecting walking up to the Hokage offices, occasionally being stopped by the locals on a job well done. He thought he would be congratulated by some of his friends and fellow shinobi, like Hinata or Neji. Instead, the instant Naruto walked through the gates, he was picked up by Anbu, and forced to have them escort him to God only knows. He could have taken on the Black Ops squad, but decided it would be a mess for himself, his teammates, and the Hokage to try and clear that up. They placed him in this cold room, like a basement or dungeon. The walls were made of brick, with a one-sided mirror placed directly on the opposite side of Naruto. There was a cold metal table, and a small cup of cold water atop of it. Inside the room, Naruto was in the company of an Anbu with a mask in the form of a wolf. Wolf was pacing himself, or herself, for he didn't know, back and forth on the other side of the table. Until I'm satisfied, replied Wolf, in a male's voice. Now, go through it again with me. Naruto rubbed his temple, losing his patience with this guy. For the 7th time, I was fighting against Koot Shinobi. I got hit from behind and fell to the ground. I looked up to see Tenten and Sakura in danger, and that's all I remember. You didn't see or hear anything else? Asked Wolf. I was almost blacking out, I already told you, replied Naruto. Come on, said Wolf, taking a seat, try and think. What else can you remember? Naruto just growled as he shook his head. He tried to think of something to satisfy this guard. There was, well, my heartbeat suddenly got really loud, said Naruto. Wolf leaned forward in his chair, looking at Naruto. What else? I felt like I was being pulled. Being pulled where? Inside, and it was a burning sensation. This is good, anything else? Asked Wolf. Naruto shook his head. He was digging for information, but that was all he could muster into a coherent answer. Of course, this Anbu might not give a damn about that. Wolf leaned back in his chair. You know that I'll report all of this to the Hokage as soon as we're done, right? He asked Naruto. Yeah, so, asked Naruto. What was this shinobi trying to get at? The council might ask her to do something drastic, replied Wolf. She wouldn't do that, said Naruto. She would have no reason to do that. Are you sure? Said Wolf, now getting out of his chair. He began to circle the blonde, much like a hyena, knowing its prey is helpless and just waiting for the final blow. You've been gone a long time, and Tsunade Dono might have gotten an impression of you from the villages. She wouldn't let them cloud her thoughts, said Naruto. Oh really now? And since when did you know the Hokage so well? Asked Wolf, getting no response. I thought so. You've suffered greatly at the hands of this village, haven't you? I was young back then, said Naruto. I've been gone so long, they've probably forgotten about me. But you haven't about them, have you? Pressured Wolf. You've kept that suffering inside for so long, and now that you're back, it's the perfect time for revenge, isn't it? That's crazy, replied Naruto, starting to get irritated again. Is it? How do you know that you didn't want Kyuubi to be released? No one would blame you for your feelings. Yes, if you let Kyuubi out, you could have your revenge all too easily, wouldn't you? You're twisting my words, interjected Naruto. You are an angry, tormented soul, aren't you, Uzumaki Naruto? Said Wolf, getting right next to Naruto's ear. You would use Kyuubi to destroy all those you deem guilty, including your team, your friends, even your lovers, wouldn't you? A snapping sound echoed in Naruto's mind at the mention of Sakura and Tenten. His right hand started to tense up, still gripping the metal table in front of him. He growled, and just yelled at the Anbu, trying to get his wicked words out of his head. His need to release was so great, his fingers punctured the table. Well, you're a piece of work, aren't you? Said Naruto, getting some nerve about him again. If he wanted to get anywhere with this guy, he might as well be as blunt, and also, insulting as possible to the man. Wolf sat back in his chair, leaning on leg over the other as he listened to the young blonde. What is this? Are you trying to get me to spit out some bullshit confession? Trying to get me to say that I want this village burned to the ground or something, so you can go snitch on me for your own sick motives. Continued Naruto. He motioned with his left hand like he was pinching something or someone. You are this close to the edge, pal, he threatened the Anbu. You want to harp on me, and try to get me to dig my own grave, that's fine. I've dealt with assholes like you my entire childhood. But if you ever mention those important to me again, and try to involve them, I will not hesitate to kill you, and you know damn well that I can. Naruto leaned back in his own chair, huffing as he tried to calm himself. You want to do something about this bastard I'm stuck with. Be my guest, but as of now you sure haven't come up with any fucking solutions, he huffed, then he shut his yap. Wolf stood up, and walked himself over to the room's door. He opened it before turning his head back to Naruto. You're free to go, said Wolf, and then used a teleportation technique to leave Naruto's sight. Most likely, he was on his way to deliver a report to Tsunade. Naruto let himself out. It was a bit later that Naruto managed to find himself at the Hokage's office. That damn Anbu had dragged Naruto almost out of the village to interrogate him. It was probably so that the bastard had enough time to brief the Hokage. Well, no matter now, for Naruto was ready to talk to Tsunade himself. He approached the office to find someone in the way blocking his entrance. By his memory, he remembered this person in the past. That's right, this was Tsunade's companion and former student, Shizune. She looked him dead in the eye as she kept him from barging into the Hokage's office. What do you want, Naruto-san? She asked him politely. I'm here to see Tsunade Dono, he answered. I need to clear things up. She's in a meeting right now, so I can't let you in. I'll let her know you're here. But, no buts, said Shizune, stomping on Naruto's foot. He winced in pain, as he was pushed back by Shizune from the door. Now, you sit here and wait, she ordered. Naruto, with a dumbfounded look on his face, obliged her. I'll let her know. Given the situation, she'll probably see you in a few minutes, Shizune said, as she entered the office. Geez, 1 minute I'm threatening an Anbu with death, and the next I'm being ordered around by a girl I could beat with one finger, thought Naruto, a sigh emitted from him. Why am I so spineless when it comes to women? It was a minute later, and Shizune peeked her head out of the doorway to find Naruto. Tsunade-sama will see you now, she said, and opened the door to allow Naruto entrance. Tsunade sat there behind her desk, loaded with papers and all sorts of junk. There was a chair in front of the desk, and Tsunade motioned for Naruto to take a seat. Naruto took the seat, as the Hokage leaned back, her hands together in thought. Naruto, I have some good news and bad news, she said. Since I like to end things on a high note, I'll start with the bad news. Naruto nodded. As it was the Hokage herself speaking, he thought it best to follow the rule, speak when spoken to. The bad news is that in light of recent events, I'm placing you under an order of house arrest. The council is meeting with me later about this, and I've no doubt they're going to try and light a fire under my ass, she said, getting a smirk from Naruto. He found it refreshing that Tsunade, despite her position, still talked like she was still a gambling drunk. However, they can't do anything to you, only I have the power to decide that. And besides, I think I have a solution for your little problem. But until then, I have to keep you in a place for both your and the village's protection. Any questions? How long will this be? He asked her. Not too long, I think, she answered. I probably have to keep you in house arrest for 1-2 days tops. And it's not a strict enforcement. If you need to go somewhere you can, but you will have an escort for such a situation. News travels fast in the village, and someone with a grudge might think twice if there's another innocent shinobi they'd have to deal with. Do they really mean to kill me? I honestly have no idea, said Tsunade, sighing. But I can't rule out the possibility. Still, you're an asset to this village, so anyone who would think of such a crime will pay for it, politics or not. So, you don't think badly of me, Tsunade Dono? Asked Naruto. Of course not, she said. I've barely known you, Naruto, so I would have no right to think such thoughts about you. I know of your history as well, but it will not be me to decide your fate, it will be you. She smiled at the young man. Now for the good news, she said, as she fumbled under her desk, and brought up 2 items, 2 small pouches. First, your pay for a successful mission, she said, handing him one of the pouches. And also, in recognition of your heroics in Suna, Their offices sent you this bonus for killing those traitors to their armies. Naruto looked in the first pouch, and whistled as he saw the 10 gold yo inside. The second pouch made him whistle a second time, as inside that one was an additional 15 gold yo. A ranked mission certainly rewarded its participants well. And also before you go, said Tsunade, as she laid out a document in front of her. For successfully meeting the requirements of your contract, you are hereby instated among the Konoha shinobi, and given the rank of Jonin. She used a stamp on the paper, its mark was shaped in the mark of the Konoha symbol, the signet of the Hokage. Naruto came inside the Hokage office with a supposed scowl on his mug. But as he left the office of Tsunade, he had on a satisfied smile. He wanted to rest up anyways, even great shinobi like himself can't just go out on another mission right after another. Besides, Tsunade and the Konoha Academy had its share of capable genin, chunin, and jonin, and those numbers were continuing to climb. Still, he wondered what the hell to do with all his freed up time. Watch some TV. Read a few books. Ramen eating contest with himself. Naruto shrugged off his thinking, believing he'll just do what he feels like. He walked up towards his house, unlocked the door, and let himself in. He took off his vest, let the clasps on his shoes loosen so he could shake him off, and jumped straight onto his couch, hitting it with a soft thud. He started to let his eyes get heavy. Guess the first thing he would do is get some rest and let all this crap with the Anbu get out of his head. However, he heard a knock at his door. He grumbled incoherently, and slumped off his couch to answer the door. Tenten appeared on the other side with a smile. "Surprise Naru-kun," she said in a bright voice. Naruto apparently didn't get the occasion, as he looked at her with a queried eye. "Surprise?" he asked her, trying to get a believable smile on his face. "Got a call from Tsunade Dono," said Tenten, as she let herself in. "Apparently she wants me to keep an eye on you, make sure no one tries something funny and all that." She plopped herself down on Naruto's couch. "Well, then that is a surprise I guess," he said, as he joined her on the couch. "So, where the heck did those Anbu take you to?" she asked him. "It was the old Inquisition," he said with a sarcastic smirk. "This one son of a bitch tried to get me to confess that I let QB out on purpose." "What?" she shot out quickly. "Why the hell would he try to do that?" "I don't know," Naruto shrugged, "but I told him off, and after a few more minutes he let me go." Tenten let out a whistle at that comment. Takes some pretty big balls to talk back to an Anbu member like that Naru-kun. "Ah, he was the one giving me the proper motivation," he said, getting up off the couch and walking over to his kitchen. "Talking about how I'd kill Sasuke, Sakura, and you just because I was a deranged little boy." He turned his head over to Tenten. "Speaking of the others, maybe I should give them a call. I'm sure they're looking for a little downtime as well." Tenten shook her head at that remark, confusion overlapping Naruto's face. "Sorry Hon," she said, "but Sasuke's already been sent out on another mission. Ino has the same case as well. And Sakura. She's got a full schedule over at the hospital, then she's got lessons with Tsunade Dono." "Well, that sure sucks," he said, walking over to the couch, 2 glasses of juice in his hand. He offered one of them to Tenten. "So, how about you? Just this mission I guess, if you can even call it one," she said. "I just have to keep an eye on you is all." "Geez," said Naruto, rubbing his head, "what the heck does a shinobi do when he's got all the time in the world?" Tenten gazed at him, a devilish smirk appearing on her face. "Well," she said, "I know of something we can do to kill time." "What would that?" said Naruto, but he couldn't finish. The glasses in the pair's hands fell to the floor, leaving a mess of juice and shards. "This situation requires us to make a swift and absolute decision, Tsunade," spoke Yasuko. Tsunade, across the large table from him, nodded in agreement. "And what exactly do you gentlemen suggest?" she said. "I am first and foremost against killing the boy." "So are we," said Daisuke. "We've put a lot of effort into keeping him alive. It would be a waste to let him just waste it all." "You act like we're helping the boy," snorted Rotaru. "When the fact of it is, we manipulated the situation right after the Yondaim's death, and before the Sandaim's reinstatement." "Enough playing on your harp, Rotaru," said Yasuko. "The fact of the matter is, we have a situation without a real answer." "Correct," agreed Kotaro. "Not only is the seal on Naruto weakening enough to have QB escape from it, but the only man who would know about it is dead." Tenten and Naruto collided with the bed like it was a safety net, and they were free falling. A line of clothing led to his room, like a trail of breadcrumbs. So, said Naruto, as best as he could between the air and Tenten's mouth. This is what you do with your spare time. When I can, she replied, in a quiet tone, like the breath was stolen from her. She saw Naruto trail along her body, and soon enough she was gasping for air again. She was screaming at his ministrations. How, she struggled to speak, did you learn to do this? Don't ask, he told her. Just enjoy it, I want you to. He then lowered his head again, and proceeded to make her scream some more. Was he glad he paid extra for soundproof paneling? There is one person who might know, spoke Tsunade. By all means, said Kotaro, let us in on this idea of yours. The only man I can think of is the man who trained the Yondaime himself. You're referring to him, assumed Daisuke. Of course I am, she answered. But the problem is twofold. Naruto was pushed onto his bed, back against the wall, Tenten crawling to his naked form on all fours. Your turn, Naru, she said. She lowered her head onto him. He gripped the sheets at her actions. He was shaking his head like he was having a seizure. After a few seconds he just stared at the ceiling, like it had a TV in it or something. And before he knew it, his great time was over, as he looked down at her, smiling like a minx. Did you learn that in Kunoichi class? He asked her, still catching his breath. Does it matter? She said with a chuckle. She was flipped onto the bed now, Naruto staring holes into her retinas. Are you sure? He asked her. What a stupid question, she answered. I love you, Naru-kun. So please, love me as well. With his assurance from Tenten, he positioned himself before letting himself envelop the weapon master. She sighed a loving sigh, as she looked into his serious, yet gentle eyes. So you have to look for him, what does that matter? Asked Kotaro. After the way Konoha just abandoned him, I don't think he'd be too eager to do us any favors. I mean, it's because of this very council that he left the village to become a hermit, answered Tsunade. But you've kept ties to him, right? Asked Rotaru. I mean, he was your teammate, surely you ran into him a few times. I will contact him, she said. But I'm telling you right now, do not expect the best results from this. We have no choice, said Yasuko. If this plan doesn't work out, we'll be forced to plan for Kyuubi's eventual escape. I understand, said Tsunade, as she then stood up and left the meeting. Naruto lay in his bed, looking down at the beauty lying next to him, her arm wrapped around him. So, spoke Tenten, didn't I say that this was a good way to kill time? I should get house arrest more often, Naruto chuckled to her. I wonder what's in store for the three of us now. What do you mean? She asked, looking up to him. Well, hesitated Naruto. Come on, she said, spit it out. Well, this three-way relationship was complicated already. I was just wondering the consequences when it comes to sex. I mean, surely there will be times when both you and Sakura want private time with me, and I'm worried this will make things tense. Naruto, said Tenten, climbing up a bit onto his chest to get a better look at him. Knowing what I know about you, do you think if I was so closed-minded, that I would be here cuddling with you naked? Point taken, said Naruto. I really got to stop thinking. Never did any good for me before. I used to be the knucklehead of the group, now I'm overthinking everything. People change, Naru, said Tenten. You're no different, not to me and Sakura at least. Besides, Sakura and I have a mutual understanding about this. We're just going to have to learn to share you. Naruto let out a small laugh at that remark. So in other words, I'm a toy for you and Sakura in this relationship, am I right? You see, said Tenten with a smile, tapping him on the nose with her finger. And who says you men don't learn fast? She then got off Naruto and rolled off the bed. I'm going to take a shower, she said. By all means, said Naruto, motioning to the bathroom door. Tenten closed the door behind her. Naruto heard a tapping at his bedroom window, and looked to see a bird pecking at it with its beak. He opened the window to the bird. He noticed a ninja clasp on its left foot. He unclasped it, and took the note hidden inside the clasp. He then attached it back to the bird, and sent it off. He unfurled the note. It was quite simple, all it stated was, report to the Hokage ASAP. He shrugged it off, and then destroyed the note. He got himself dressed, and by the time he was done Tenten stepped out of the bathroom. Something up. She asked Naruto. Hokage wants to see me, he answered. I gotta go. Feel free to take your time, I probably won't be gone for long though. Sounds good, said Tenten, and gave him a chaste kiss goodbye. Naruto exited his house, and sprinted towards the Hokage offices. He was led into Tsunade's office without any resistance from Shizune this time. Tsunade was standing up in front of her desk, instead of sitting behind it. She turned to Shizune and Naruto, and motioned for her friend to close the doors behind them. Naruto, you are to leave Konoha and find an old acquaintance of mine, she told the boy. Ha, no offense Tsunade Dono, but what is an old friend of yours going to do to help me? Asked Naruto. Ah, but he's more than just an old friend Naruto, said Tsunade. This man is the one credited with training the Yondaime himself. If anyone knows as much about your seal as the Yondaime, it will be this man. I see, find the teacher who taught the student, said Naruto. When do I leave? You can leave immediately, you'll meet up with your team at the entrance, answered Tsunade. Team? Wouldn't that just slow me down? Asked Naruto. This team is more along the lines of making sure things go smoothly, rather than assisting yourself. I'm sorry, but the council would want some insurance, said Tsunade with a huff under her breath. No other way? Asked Naruto. Tsunade shook her head solemnly. I suppose it won't be so bad, better than traveling alone, said Naruto, bowing to Tsunade. Thank you Tsunade Dono, I'll be going immediately. It was a quick trip to the gates of Konoha. He left the village without a hassle, but he saw no sign of his team. He walked a ways up the dirt path, until he was almost out of sight from Konoha. He was starting to get confused. Did Tsunade make a mistake about the meeting spot? He then felt a threat approaching him from his right side. He quickly moved as a giant whirlwind skewered the spot he was originally standing on. Naruto immediately unsheathed Tezumateki, and got into a defensive stance. Whatever was the origin of that whirlwind had concealed itself again. As if one opponent wasn't enough, Naruto suddenly felt an additional 3 threatening presences around him. He ducked as a flurry of kunai from his right flew over him, sticking into one of the numerous trees of Konoha's forest. He then jumped over a whirlwind coming at him from behind. He dodged another whirlwind approaching him from his left. He then struck at a presence in front of him, but he soon found he hit nothing but a mass of insects. So, you wanna keep playing hide and seek, eh? Shouted Naruto, knowing his attacker heard him. He then started to preform several kata in quick succession. His sequence ended in the kata, monkey. Tsuchiden, Rifuto Wakunaku, shouted Naruto, as he suddenly was raised on a pillar of earth, the surrounding earth rising in ridges and waves. The pillar then slammed down with tremendous force, sending it energy through the ridges and waves, which in turn lashed out in all directions. The trees rooted the earth tilted and angeled, as the earth beneath them moved like an ocean wave. His technique succeeded, as he saw a figure descending from the air, being flung from his hiding spot by the earth. Naruto rushed the figure, who he could now see was a man, and swung Tezumateki downward on his skull. The man just let the great axe sink into his flesh, and soon it transformed into another mass of insects. He then felt something jab up next to his lower spine. Please surrender, said a kind, but deadly serious voice behind him. If I hit you here, your spine will tense up, and you'll be paralyzed for quite a long time. Naruto just smiled, he knew exactly what was going on now. Is this how you greet all your potential teammates? He asked, never moving. After all, he was right where they wanted him. Just the ones we don't know that well, she said, in that sickly sweet voice again. Naruto was rather surprised that someone with such a voice could be so deadly. He then felt the object up against his spine retract, and Naruto calmly put away Tezumateki. He then turned around to see the woman who defeated him. The first thing he noticed immediately was her eyes. Normally one has discernible pupils, but this girl's eyes were milky white. She almost looked like an undead with those eyes and those large veins pumping blood into them. Her midnight blue hair was cut short, but almost clumsily, as it seemed uneven in a few spots. She wore a tight shinobi outfit, with a fur coat and shorts to show at least some modesty. She wore her Konoha Hate on her neck, almost like a dog collar. Naruto, looking over her, had a smirk on his face. You weren't using a weapon on me, weren't you? Oh, I was, she politely corrected him. My name is Hyuga Hinata. Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto with a thumbs up. So that's what it was, you're a Hyuga. You're certainly smart, she complimented him. And my teammates always used to tell me that you were an idiot. Gee, thanks for letting me know, said Naruto, a little peeved at the backhanded compliment. Still, she didn't seem like a girl that would do that on purpose, so he let it slide. So, who are these teammates of yours? Naruto asked Hinata. That would be us, ya jerk, said a voice. Two males appeared behind Hinata. I should have guessed, said Naruto under his voice. The first was wearing a hoodie jacket, with the hood down, revealing his brown eyes and brown crew cut. He had many marks all over his face. Some were simple paint, others seemed to be old scars. He was light on his equipment, as he bore no real obvious kunai pouches, scrolls, or otherwise. He also wore long denim shorts, with sneakers on his feet. The other was wearing a hoodie as well, with the top on. In fact, the only thing you could see of his face were the large bottle glasses he wore. He bore the same attire as his partner. With the lack of equipment about them, they must be shinobi from specialist families. Of course, Naruto knew them, and exactly what their respective families did for a living. Hello Kiba, Shino, said Naruto. Seems like you've improved since last time I saw your sorry ass, smirked Kiba. Hinata rewarded him with a jab to his arm. Now Kiba-kun, she said to him, that's enough bad-mouthing out of you. I think he did quite well considering he was dealing with 4 opponents he never knew. 4? Asked Naruto. Oh yeah, said Kiba, as he put his fingers together to whistle. A large animal then bounded out of the forest. It appeared to be a dog, but one might mistake it for a full-grown wolf if they didn't take a good look. Is that a Kamaru? Exclaimed Naruto. Kiba, what the heck have you been feeding him? Hey, my family secrets are not for the likes of you. Defended Kiba. Besides, a Kamaru here is quite the prodigy in his own right, aren't ya boy? Asked Kiba, scratching the giant dog behind his ear like it was nothing. A Kamaru wagged his tail in approval of Kiba's touch. Anyways, spoke up Shino. I believe you know why we're here. She told you 3, eh? Asked Naruto, receiving a nod from all of them, including a Kamaru. Yeah, I know what the plan is, here's hoping it works, said Naruto, patting his stomach. Then let's set out, said Kiba, as he climbed on top of a Kamaru. He extended a hand to Hinata, who joined him on top of the beast. Shino and Naruto would have to hoof it. The 4 set out for their target. According to Tsunade, he was last seen in a town 2 days from Konoha. Recent techniques. Kyuheika Ranyaku, 9 Swords of Chaos. Tsuchiden, Rifuto Wakunaku, Earth Technique, Rise to Tremble. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.